Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. First off, let me congratulate Alan for winning Fintech of the Year.
Thank you.
In fact, if we look at all the categories that we had, when we say we have 300 submissions, most of the submissions was for the category that you submitted. So it's quite a fierce competition that you guys have won. You know, thinking back about Touch and Go and Touch and Go eWallet, I recall last night Farila was there as well. Last time she was the Chief Innovation Officer, and she was very excitedly sharing with me, oh, we've got this QR thing, we're test piloting it in TTDI. To think that test pilot years ago grew to like today's largest e-wallet is quite an achievement, especially when you think about the massive graveyard of e-wallet companies that did not make the cut. So once again, congratulations. And you've been part of this journey since its very early days, I think since 2017, 2018, around that time, right? So talk to us about the journey of like, being one little test pilot to growing to today, one of the largest e-wallets that we do have in Malaysia.
Thank you, Vincent. I was actually the employee number 3 for TNG Digital. So actually for any startup, I found the most difficult one was 0 to 1, not 1 to 100. In the early days, they really tried to figure out what could work. So I think now in hindsight, if we're looking back our journey, there are 2-3 things I think made a quite big differences in early days. Number one is we made a hard decision to really do the hard work to go door by door to acquire with offline merchants. So since our route is touch and go, so everyone would take for granted our first batch of the users would be acquired from converting touch and go the cards. It's actually not. Our first year, 80% of our customer actually acquired through offline. So it's actually a funny thing. We call ourselves an online digital app. But reality of the first year, 80% of our users were acquired offline through merchant. We acquire merchant first, and through merchant, we also acquire users. So that actually was a tough decision, but in hindsight, it was the right decision. The customer will only use you once you have very wide acceptance. So I think we made a hard decision in the early days. So that's number one. Number two is this innovative breakthrough of pay direct. I think if you recall in the early days, everyone was actually saying, a touch and go wallet is so stupid. You have a fantastic opportunity to resolve people's pain point, which is how to reload the card, right? You could just using this user case make wallet to reload card, you'll get millions and millions of customers tomorrow, right? So everyone's saying, why are you so stupid? Don't even do this. But the reality is, touch and go card is offline card. The money is stored in the chip. The money can only be reloaded once you touch a physical reader. And that is just a physical barrier is impossible to overcome, digitally, right? And that's reality, right? So I think we really scratch our head to how to resolve this problem. Until I think end of 2018, we thought about this pay direct idea. So it is true, it is impossible to reload money to the card. But we think maybe we can using the card simply as identifier. Once you touch the card, we deduct the money from your wallet. So we cannot reload the money as a fact, but if we can using the money in the wallet to pay for the toll, resolve the same problem, right? I think that is a very smart innovation. We actually acquired the second batch of our users. So first batch is from offline merchant, second batch is from pay direct. Then what happened, interestingly, is a third thing happened, is in end of 2019, the government launched this E29 program, right? And the E29 program has one important criteria to select who will be picked as the participants, the top 3 ones. So whoever has the biggest user. I think at that time, because of the first batch and second batch, we were about, I think either number 2 or number 3. So we will pick as one of them. And we did very well in that E29. And after E29, I think we quickly become number 1. I think these 2-3 things in the early days really leads to today's success. In hindsight, I think really made a difference.
I think it's interesting because like when you're trying to solve a problem, right, there's many iterations before you arrive at a solution that is feasible or a solution that's ideal for the consumers.
Very true.
I think the earlier version was, I don't know if you recall this, I think that was a big story. It was like a little kiosk and then you topped it up, right? And it's to think that was the first version and then it led to this. I think there's a lot of iterations, right?
Yes.
So also maybe want to talk about other moments being employee number 3 and the entire journey with Touch 'n Go. Were there other blunders that you guys learned to improve on to lead to the iteration of the product that you have from today?
Honestly, I think every success behind it is probably more failures. Yeah. So before we came to something really working, we probably have tried different ways until we found other things not working. Then we come to the things that's working. So that's why I always believe, there's one thing actually I believe. In the startup, a fintech industry is not a big fish, eat a small fish. It's a quick fish, eat a slow fish. Because if you're quick, you can reiterate and try many, many different things. You will find a right answer ahead of your competitor. And that is a very big competitive advantage. So speed is very important in the startup industry.
So to me, like as a user, I feel like why I prefer to use the Touch 'n Go eWallet is that the app is a little bit more simple, right? I'm not bombarded with a lot of things. The performance of the app is good, it's fast. And I think part of it is also your partnership with NSL. And I recall when you guys announced it in 2017, the joint venture to form Touch 'n Go Digital. And it was our most well-read story, although it's just like one line announcing it. So I just wanted to get a sense of how much of the success today and how much of the tech behind Touch 'n Go were also attributed to the support from your partner of Ant as well.
Ant Financial is a great partner. I think this is really strengths plus strengths. Ant Financial, what they good is they have very solid tech platform. Another thing is they have a success journey in China, so they know at least how digital payment works in China. What Touch 'n Go has locally is the brand recognition and also a very important user case, right? And of course, the CMP also behind it, that's also make a difference. So when you combine the two companies' strengths, I think that's what also make this journey quite fruitful for both of us. In the early days, actually, I can tell you, in the early days, we are very much rely on Ant Financial tech. I think I remember in the first year, about 50% or more of my tech people is actually Ant Financial people. That was in the first year. Because we need people very quickly to bring the tech platform to the scale. But I'm also very proud to tell you, as of today, we almost 100% localized. Even our CTO right now is also a local, right? So I think we have gone through that journey of relying on Ant Financial tech, and now is almost 100% localized.
It's a very good progress to see. I guess, and as you know me, right, every panel I like to throw in a cheeky question or two, right? I guess the hot topic for the past week, I think you know where I'm going with this, right? So there was the whole discussion, there was the whole debate about the whole MDR for the QR codes, right? So what are your thoughts on that? What are your views on that?
Yeah, I think some of you may have read my LinkedIn post. I simply highlighted a few facts. Number one, many people actually get the message wrong. They were thinking Bandigara or Paynet are imposing a new fee. The reality is, this was announced back in 2019. So when they launched during our QR 3 years ago, they think the fee will be waived for the first 3 years. Then come to January 2023, when the first year came, they extended another 10 months. So Bandigara and Paynet simply say the waiver period finished. But Bandigara and Paynet didn't say whether you should or should not charge or how much you should charge. They leave the decision to each player, a market force to decide. That's
As it should be.
That's regulators should. That's what they should do, right? So I think many people misunderstood that part, right? So that's number one. Number two, national QR is not unique in Malaysia. You have PayNow in Singapore. You have QRS in Indonesia. You have UPI in India. You have PromptPay in Thailand, right? Just Google with national QR, the MDR charge, you would find out Malaysia is actually the last one to effect the charge. And the proposed charge between 25 bits to 50 bits is also the lowest among all. Just take Singapore example. Singapore is 68 to 90 bits. Okay, so that's the second fact I highlighted. Number three, credit card, debit card, MDR charge is there forever, right? And MDR charge is actually to the merchant, not to the user, right? So there's quite a few facts I think people probably didn't pay attention. People just probably looking at things in the face value. It's become a very hot topic. But in the long run, I do believe free forever is not sustainable, right? We need to find a way to make sure it is sustainable for the industry, but at the same time, also protect the smallest merchants. So I do believe if you're looking at other national QR, there's certain things they did we can leverage. We can also learn from them. For example, some of the countries, they do tiering. Depends on the merchant ticket size, they have different rate. That's number one. There are certain special segments like education or government, they also have special rate. So I think we things, maybe you can also learn from them. But if you ask me, I don't think free forever is the answer.
I mean, I also think that, whenever we want to see innovation in any space, any development in any space, we need to invest in that space.
True.
So if there's no investment in that space, there's no incentivization to go towards.
Exactly right. So exactly right.
A lot of discussions over there. So I want to switch gear back to, you were talking about being employee number 3, and then 3 seems to be the magic number because you're also the third CEO of TNG Digital as well. And, we've met Nizam, we've met Ignatius, and then now yourself. Comparing your vision, your strategy, and I guess, each CEO has different phases of the company as well, right? So how different is your vision and strategy compared to your predecessors?
Yeah, actually, I think it's just different people have different strengths in different area. You take our first CEO, Nizam, as example. Nizam, he came from Touch and Go, and he knows this toll companies and toll, is very well. In the early days, to do the BD and make sure convince with 30 plus, toll company to accept PayDirect, etc. I think he made significant contribution, right? Without him, I don't think the PayDirect options will be there even today.
Really the foundation.
It's a foundation, right? I think that first wave and second wave growth was, I think, Nizam played an important part. Then looking at Ignatius. Ignatius, he was a chief revenue officer from Malaysia Airlines, right? So he is really good in commercial. I think he signed up a lot of good partners like 7-Eleven, always big partners to also bring our company into the second stage, right? Really make the payment become kind of universal, biggest payments player. I think at this point, Touch and Go is probably ready to go to next phase. This is where my expertise can come in. We're talking about digital financial services. We're also talking about digital merchant services. I think my background is a lot of banking and digital financial service related. So this is where I can probably also contribute more.
It's interesting how, like, in each phase of the growth, you have the right person to actually drive that particular growth of the company. And interestingly, when I noted down the 3 phases of growth of TNG is exactly the same as you just described as well. So I guess the observation is all the same. If you look at the overall funding that we see in the fintech space in Malaysia, I think typically the funding that we see for most companies is a little bit smaller. A typical Series A seed fund is less than a couple of million. But you guys raised 750 million. And to my knowledge, you guys are the most well-funded fintech in Malaysia. What kind of advice would you give founders today who's also trying to raise financing for themselves?
If you think the funding for TNGD is like walk on the beach, you'll be mistaken. Actually, we have done like 40 roadshows talking to different investors. But one thing I think I would like to share with you is if you want other people's money, the first and most important thing is you need to put in their shoes. You understand why they should invest in you. Most of investors are looking for two things. One is a growth story. Number two is a clear path to profitability. If you can actually show to your investor, right, you have a clear strategy, you have a significant market share, and you're growing very fast. At the same time, you're not going to burn money forever. There is a clear path to profitability, then your chance of getting their investment will be much, much higher. There's one more thing also I would like to share with you. Don't just take anyone's money. During the roadshow, actually, there was some partner want to join, but after consideration, we actually declined. Because we are not just looking for money, we are also looking for their contribution in our next growth story. Let's say AIA. AIA, we're also doing a lot of digital insurance. That's where they can play a big part. Lazada. E-commerce is a huge user case. That's something we want to be in, right? So each one of them need to contribute value in addition to just money. Otherwise, sometimes it can also bring to some other issues.
You can never get in bed with the wrong investors, right? Because like if they have different vision, it could really throw you guys off path of where you want to go. But that segues nicely to my next question. Considering that one of your big investors is AIA, and we just finished a panel on Ito as well, right? And you guys are rolling out so much embedded insurance products. Are you guys applying? What's your thoughts on that?
Honestly, we do not understand this digital insurance license, what the eWallet can do for us. If without this one, what is something we cannot do? Honestly, right now, we are very much in the early study stage. It's too early to tell either one way or another. It is very early exploration stage right now for us.
It's funny because I think back about the early days of the digital banking framework, and I was asking Ignatius the very same question, and it was the exact same answer. It's like, I'm not sure what we can't do with the exact thing that we have right now.
And now you know the answer.
It's a consistent answer, right? But also, I guess the question that I also have about the digital banking side of things as well. A lot of services that you offer are very similar to what the digital banks are going to roll out as well. So two questions. One is that when they launch, do you think they will eat into your market share? And two, do you think they will reach a point where all these players will lobby and talk to Bank Negara to also license you guys as well and regulate you guys the same way?
Okay. I think it is a fact. Although we do not have digital bank license, but in terms of the products, Touch 'n Go Digital may have the most comprehensive digital financial service products in the market. Right? We have digital insurance, we have digital lending, we have wealth management, right? Et cetera, et cetera. But there's one thing I think there's a lot of misconception. People probably say, hey, how come TNGD can do so many things even without license? The reason why is very simple. We did a partnership. Every single product is actually belong to our partner. They hold the license. We basically doing the whole user journey, user access, and distribution. So every single product we launched is governed under today's regulatory framework. So none of them is in the gray area.
Right.
It's very much in the white area, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Second thing is about why we didn't apply for digital bank license. Actually, it's very simple. We want partnership. We want to do open platform. So to some extent, I'm worried the moment someday, become a Touch 'n Go bank, right? Our partners, they might think twice. They might not want to work with us to launch some products. And we have to admit, every different bank, every different financial institution, they have their own strengths. Someone is very good in this product, someone is very good in that product. We want to pick the best of all and work with all of them. I think that's one of the main reasons.
And I think also one thing is that you guys don't take deposits as well, so it's a big factor in not being regulated under the same regulation, right?
True.
Yeah. I guess we have about 10 minutes left. Let's open up the floor to some questions. If anyone would like to direct any questions to Alan, or if you have any questions, right behind that, do we have a mic? Mike's on the way.
Hi, Adam here from IDC. You mentioned partnership as a your cooperating model instead of would say offering the service itself. I guess that brings a disadvantage in terms of understanding the user data and getting insights out of your user, right? So how do you work around that, or do you is that a long-term plan to continue this partnership, or how do you work around the lack of getting the understanding of user inside your platform?
Yeah. This is actually one of the Touch 'n Go Digital biggest strengths. We have very good business intelligence and data team, and we do have a lot of data. You think from our partner perspective. Let's say if you are CMB Bank, other bank, or you're a financial institution, why you want to work with Touch 'n Go, right? The reason why they work with us is because, first of all, we have a platform has 21, 22 million users. Number two is also we know this customer much better. We have a lot of engagement, and we can do a lot of segmentation and very specific targeting to sell their products better than what they can do themselves. So that's why they provide the products and they provide the balance sheet. Also, they actually come to regulator for approval. We actually get distribution for them. And that's a model we're working with each other. Everyone contribute your strengths.
I hope that answers your question. Is there any other questions from the floor? Yes, Steve on the other corner on the left.
Hi, Steve again. I rarely ask questions unless it's important. All right.
I'm glad we got two from you today then.
Yes. First of all, congratulations, Alan. I think you've done a good job into Touch 'n Go. I've been following you for some time. Primarily, I've been consulting in Africa on fintech, all right, and digital transformation. So my question to you is, as you know, in Africa, or even China, mobile money is big, right? Before even the application came out, right? So it's also considered a digital bank in that sense, right? A mini banking system itself. Do you consider Touch 'n Go a micro bank yourself because of the current circulation in Touch 'n Go wallet? Because you may not need to be a digital bank in order for you to even transact. Thanks.
Hopefully I understand your question correctly. So for me, to provide banking services does not mean you have to be a bank. So I think if you recall, Bill Gates said this I don't know how many years ago, maybe 30 years ago, right?
I have a bingo card attending conferences, and the middle of the bingo card is the Bill Gates code. Because every conference we bring up that code.
There will always be banking, but there might not be banking.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do believe banking services can be provided by non-bank and also in a very efficient way, particularly when it comes to the micro and a small ticket size, rural area. Bank, today's operating model has certain limitation. So like Africa, like some other countries, right? So a lot of people, they actually don't have a lot of money. For traditional bank, they kind of ignore them because your operating cost just make it impossible for you to make money from these people, right? So they just totally ignore. But financial inclusion is a very big agenda. I do believe in this area, fintech company like ours can really be complementary to what bank does and providing banking services to the masses.
Hope that answers the question, Steve. Roshan, is there any questions from YouTube? Otherwise, I will steal the questions as usual. So, there's one more question here. Yes, Sean, right?
Yeah,
go ahead.
This is sharing from Boost.
Are you guys going to be friendly and nice?
Yes, we are friendly. we are. We're friendly. Okay, back to the question on MDR that we discussed over lunch with Vincent as well. So, so banks obviously have an advantage in this area, right? Where banks they can monetize from other revenue streams, even they go zero MDR, and also they don't have a cash-in cost. So do you then back to your point that PayNet or Bank Negara leave it to the industry players to decide whether they will impose an MDR or not? Do you think some of the banks may still go zero MDR in order to gain that competitive advantage?
Personally, I think it's very likely. I think Bank Negara actually did a smart thing. They did not impose a particular rate. They let market force to decide. So if you are a bank, if you can make enough money from elsewhere, you may just decide to using this one as a loss leader and do not charge forever, which pose even bigger challenge for people like you and me, right? Because payment is our main business. If we have zero MDR, how do we survive? I think this is where we also have to innovate and improve ourselves. It is not a secret. If you only rely on MDR payments, we'll never make money. This is the same thing for Boost, the same thing for Touch 'n Go Digital, right? So what can we do to provide more value-added service to our user, to the merchants, and monetize the millions of user base and merchant base we have, and eventually still win? I think that's something both you and me have to figure out.
But I'm sensing that, a part of how you guys are trying to navigate this situation is through your embedded services, right? And again, we've spoke about the three phases that you had earlier. One is Nizam building all the commercial stuff, and then Ignatius putting together all the partners to put you guys in a strong position. So I want to talk about your next phase of growth, right? All this embedded finance and the embedded services. What is the vision moving forward from Touch 'n Go? What can we expect in terms of products, services, innovations from your company in the years to come?
I think in the next phase, there are two things will be very critical for Touch 'n Go Digital. One we call digital financial services. Second is digital merchant services. So I think in the end, the segments we try to serve is not just users, but also our commercial partners, not just big ones, but also millions of the small merchants. If you're looking at the level of business digitization in Southeast Asia, then you compare to some countries which is much more advanced, like the US or China, you will see here is still about 8 to 10 years behind. The level of digitization for merchant business, I still think there's a lot of room to grow. And that will also create opportunity for a company like us. It will be a win-win situation because by digitalization, we can help with business to save cost, increase sales. At the same time, we also share that bigger pie. I think this is something I'm quite passionate. I really believe Touch 'n Go Digital, if we really want to overcome the challenge, our Boost call is just raised. I think it's about digital financial services and digital merchant services.
And we will observe that journey with great interest. With that, I think we've reached the end of the session. Do you have any other closing thoughts to share before we close the session?
Yeah, maybe just one thing I'd like to share with you. A lot of people like us joined with eWallet, not as a founder, not as an owner, but as professional manager. But if you really want to join a fintech startup, you need to have an entrepreneur and a founder mentality. If you're really just doing this as a job, honestly, my suggestion is don't even do it. Because you're going to suffer and you're going to fail. To do a job like this requires much more than just a kind of professional manager mindset. You really need to think yourself as an owner, an entrepreneur. I think that would make it work.
That really speaks to your experience of coming from CIMB Bank.
That's
and then
right.
to Touch 'n Go, right? So it's a very personal.
By the way, I volunteered to come to Touch 'n Go Digital. So
What an insane man you are. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Alan. And once
Thank
again,
you.
congratulations, Alan.